Heisman Memorial Trophy.
Bryce Young.
There's the first sack of the ball game. Will Anderson. Alabama is still Alabama.
Roll Tide and welcome to the Crimson Tide Production Studio inside Bryant-Denny Stadium for another episode of Tide TV This Week. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by my co-host Kenzie Hughes. Roll Tide, Kenzie.
Roll Tide, Roger. A big week for Alabama athletics, and fall sports are finally in full swing as the #1 ranked Crimson Tide opened the season at home inside Bryant-Denny Stadium for the first time in 11 years. And what a way to open the season, Roger. Alabama scored on their first 9 drives en route to the 55-point victory, which is also the largest margin of victory in a season opener in the Saban era.
Crimson Tide scored 17 points in the first quarter. After we saw a 45-yard field goal from Will Reichard, Jermaine Burton scored his first touchdown as a member of the Crimson Tide. Burton scored another touchdown to open the second quarter, and also Trayshawn Holden caught his second touchdown of the game to make it 31-0 as the Tide led 41-0 at halftime.
After 5 touchdown passes in the first half, quarterback Bryce Young added this one on the ground. This 4-yard run made it 48-0. Then Jace McClellan caught his second touchdown of the game. For the final points, this one from Jalen Milroe as the Tide rolled big in their season opener, 55-0.
So I was really pleased with the way the players approached this game. I thought we had good energy. I thought we had good intensity. We had good preparation throughout the week. They're sort of challenging with some of the things that they do. And I thought when the first group was in there, they did a really good job. They only had 1 penalty. We missed some things, which, we need to clean up. But for the most part, I thought the first group did a really, really good job in this game.
Bryce Young totaled 6 touchdowns with a team-leading and career-high 100 yards rushing while passing for 195 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Running back Jahmyr Gibbs finished with 93 yards on 9 carries in his Alabama debut, while Trayshawn Holden and Jermaine Burton each finished with 2 touchdown receptions.
The Alabama defense held Utah State to just 7 first downs and 136 yards of total offense. Linebacker Jalen Moody led the team with 5 tackles in the Tide's first shutout in a season opener in 34 years. Some great individual efforts in the win for the season opener, and one of those was recognized by the league office.
Senior starting center Darian Dalcourt was named the Southeastern Conference Offensive Lineman of the Week. Dalcourt led the Crimson Tide offensive line that paved the way for 559 yards of total offense in the Tide's 55-0 win. The conference honor was the first for Dalcourt in his career.
Coach Saban and the coaching staff also made their selections for Players of the Week, selecting 9 total.
On offense, you had Dalcourt along with the Tide's leading receiver Trayshawn Holden and quarterback Bryce Young.
Over on the defensive end, a trio of linebackers were chosen. Chris Braswell, Henry To'o, and Dallas Turner were honored. And on special teams, Kyrie Jackson, Demoy Kennedy, and Will Reichard were the honorees.
Great opening week for the Crimson Tide at home, Kenzie. And before we go to break, let's take an all-access look at the highlights from the Tide's 55-0 win over Utah State.
Now's the time to go fight the fight. It's also the time where we create an identity. You create an identity for who you are as a player. We create an identity for who we are as a team.
Game 1.
Going across the middle, catch made. We miss you, Eli. Touchdown, Alabama.
McKinnon with a slant and to the end zone. Touchdown, Trayshawn Holden for 9 yards out.
Made no. Play action throw. Catch made. Touchdown, Jermaine Burton.
A spin, first down, touchdown, Trayshawn Holden. And Bryce Young has thrown for 4 touchdowns here in this first half.
Pick it off. Catch made. Touchdown scored. Jace McClellan. Touchdown, Alabama. 20, 15. Still on his feet, Jahmyr Gibbs. The long run.
It's a Saturday night stroll for Bryce Young.
Game 1 down.
Tide TV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
The lights of Tuscaloosa. What a finish we're in store for.
If you're looking to visit this stadium. They got it figured out here.
It's more than a buzz at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's electric. Here comes the Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. It's week 2 of the college football season, and the Crimson Tide hit the road for the first time this year as the Tide heads out west to the Lone Star State.
For a preview of this week's matchup between Alabama and Texas, our Christopher England joins us now.
When #1 Alabama travels to Austin to take on the 22nd-ranked Texas Longhorns, it will be the Tide's first trip to Austin in 100 years. 1922 was the last time Alabama played in Austin, but the last time the two schools met was for the national championship at the Rose Bowl for the 2009 season. Alabama defeated Texas 37-21 to win the 2010 BCS National Championship. It was the Crimson Tide's 13th national championship and first since 1992. Since that win over the Longhorns, the Crimson Tide have dominated the world of college football with an FBS best record of 151-17, 7 SEC championships, and 5 national championships. Leading the Longhorns program is second-year head coach Steve Sarkisian. Sark is very familiar with the Crimson Tide, serving as offensive coordinator for Coach Saban for 2 seasons, winning a national championship with the Tide in 2020. Both programs are very familiar with one another, with 5 coaches and multiple staff members at Texas having played or coached at Alabama under Coach Saban. They know what Coach Saban's tendencies are, but he knows theirs as well, and that doesn't necessarily give Texas or Alabama an advantage.
We seem to play several teams now that kind of know us, but you act like we don't know them. So just because somebody knows you when they play you doesn't mean they're going to beat you, and just because you know them when you play them doesn't mean you're going to beat them either. It kind of comes down to how you execute.
Texas opened the season last week with a 52-10 win over Louisiana Monroe. Ohio State transfer quarterback Quinn Ewers made his collegiate debut, completing 16 of 24 passes for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. For a quarterback making just his second collegiate start, getting pressure on him will be key.
But it's very important because, you've probably seen a team like us before, and to go out there and, try to get him roused up a little bit, go ahead and get pressure on him early on it, I think it's very beneficial to, what we have to do to slow him down or slow the team down, so it's very important.
A first-team preseason All-American leads the Longhorns' backfield. Bijan Robinson totaled 73 yards and a touchdown in just 10 carries in last week's win over the Warhawks.
Well, Bijan's a great running back. Everybody knows it, everybody sees it. He's quick, elusive, finds holes that, not an average back can find. So, it's going to be a huge challenge for us to be able to play gap defense and, honing on what he does.
Jatavian Sanders caught twice as many passes as any other Texas wideout, finishing with 6 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. Fifth-year linebacker DeMarvion Overshawn is the leader on the Texas defense. Number 0 led the Longhorns in their season-opening win with 8 tackles, 6 solo, including 2 for loss. And fifth-year defensive back Deshaun Jamison is a playmaker in the Longhorns secondary. Jamison picked off a ULM pass and took it all the way back, 69 yards for the score.
Ready? Good, that's it. Nice job.
Some good news for the Crimson Tide. Tight end Cam Latu is back at 100% and will be in the lineup for Saturday's game. Kickoff will be an early one in Austin. The #1 ranked Crimson Tide and 22nd ranked Longhorns will kick off at 11 a.m. The game will be televised on Fox. The Fox Big Noon Kickoff and ESPN College Game Day pregame shows will both broadcast live from Austin on Saturday morning. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV This Week coming up next.
Tide TV This Week is presented by Ford. For great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
There's a formula for success. It takes practice, persistence, and an unwavering drive. Together, our aspirations become reality. Every triumph has its origin story. Ours begin right here. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. Roger, we talked about the great start of the season for Alabama football, but the Alabama soccer team has gotten off to a really hot start.
Yeah, before their 3-game road trip out west this past week, the Crimson Tide had gotten off to a 3-1 start with a win over 18th-ranked Clemson. Alabama started their road trip with their toughest match of the season so far against 6th-ranked BYU.
BYU scored first as the Cougars found the back of the net in the 10th minute of play. Rachel McCarthy with the perfect shot into the left corner of the net to give BYU the 1-0 lead. Alabama responded by scoring 3 goals in 6 minutes, with a header from Riley Mattingly Parker scored the Tide's first goal, heading the ball from the crossbar from Jessica Skorka in the 17th minute of play to even the tie at 1-1.
In the 22nd minute of play, Felicia Knox drilled a penalty kick into the back left corner to give the Tide the 2-1 advantage. And just over a minute later, it was Gianna Paul notching the game-winning goal off the kick from Parker as she turned on the speed, and Alabama goes in perfectly in front at that point by a 3-2 score. Plenty of saves as well for McKinley Crone in this matchup.
That's right. Goalie McKinley Crone came up big for the Crimson Tide with 7 saves total, one here in the 42nd minute off a penalty kick, and the Cougars would add a late goal in the 83rd minute. But it wasn't enough as Alabama upsets number 6 BYU on their home field with a 3-2 win. A huge win for the Crimson Tide, Roger. Their second top 20 win of the season.
Coach Westhard's squad followed that big win over BYU with a draw against the Pac-12's Utah, trailing 1-0 in the 88th minute. Reyna Reyes evened the score with a goal to give Alabama and Utah the 1-1 tie.
The Crimson Tide remained undefeated on their road trip out west with a 4-1 win over Utah Valley. Ashlyn Serapika, Reyna Reyes, Riley Mattingly Parker, and Kate Henderson all scored goals in the win.
And with that big upset win over 6th-ranked BYU and the undefeated road trip, the Crimson Tide moved up from the receiving votes category to 18th in the nation in the latest United Soccer Coaches rankings. Also, for the second week in a row, Riley Mattingly Parker was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Parker scored the first goal in the Tide's win over number 6 BYU and also assisted on the game winner. Parker also added another goal in the 4-1 win over Utah Valley.
And Gianna Paul was chosen for the SEC Freshman of the Week award. Paul scored the game-winning goal in the upset against 6th-ranked BYU, and it was her first game-winning goal of her career and the first conference honor. The 18th-ranked Crimson Tide will be at home for their only match of the weekend. Come out and support the Tide on Sunday as they host North Alabama at 5 p.m.
Also, the Alabama volleyball team was on the road this past weekend as well. The Tide traveled to Houston to compete in the Flo Hyman Collegiate Cup. The Tide dropped their first 2 matches, but ended the weekend with a 3-1 win over Central Arkansas on Saturday.
This weekend, the Tide will be in Muncie, Indiana for the Ball State Tournament.
The Alabama men's and women's cross-country team were both ranked preseason number 1 in the SEC rankings, and the Tide showed why as they swept the Lion Opener this past weekend in Florence.
And for their performance in the win, the Tide picked up a couple of Freshman of the Week honors.
Macy Shelp was named the SEC Women's Freshman of the Week as she won the individual title in the women's 4,000-meter race at the Lion Opener, pacing the Tide to a team win. Shelp finished 3 seconds ahead of the field in her first race for the Crimson Tide with a time of 14:07:36.
And Will Pinson was named the SEC Men's Freshman of the Week. Pinson finished second in his first collegiate race for the Crimson Tide with a time of 15:10:09 in the 5-kilometer race.
Crimson Tide cross-country team has the weekend off and will return to action next Friday, September 16th for the North Alabama Showcase in Huntsville.
Don't go anywhere because coming up next, we'll visit with one of the newest assistant coaches for the Crimson Tide. That's up next right here on Tide TV This Week.
The lights of Tuscaloosa. What a finish we're in store for.
If you're looking to visit this stadium. They got it figured out here.
It's more than a buzz at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's electric. Here comes the Tide.
Welcome back. Each year, Coach Saban has to replace assistant coaches on his staff. When you coach for the best program under the best head coach, you're always in high demand.
That's right, Roger. Everyone wants a piece of the Crimson Tide, especially those who have coached under the GOAT, Coach Saban.
Coach Saban has 4 new assistant coaches on this year's staff, and one of those is outside linebackers and special teams coach Coleman Hutzler. Let's get to know Coach Hutzler in this week's Crimson Tide Spotlight.
Right? We are striking this thing, right, where this pad is in the center. I'm putting my hips.
You know, I've known since a young age that I wanted to be a coach, probably around 5th grade. Family of coaches, teachers, and so you know, that experience of playing for my dad, seeing the effect that he had not only on myself but also on teammates and other young men was inspiring. I feel like all my jobs and all the people that I've worked for have in one way or another prepared me to work for Coach Saban. Obviously the opportunity to work for him and to learn from him on a daily basis is a great experience. I mean, the attention to detail, you know, obviously as a special teams coordinator is huge, and so, you know, that's something obviously Coach Saban is big on, the details every day, and being, you know, a great teacher and really putting your players in the best position to go have success. My philosophy as a coach, it's one about relating to the players, connecting with the players. I tell my guys all the time that don't talk about it, be about it. Through our actions, you know, through my actions, I want to show them that I'm here for them, both on and off the field.
Great first step. Great first step.
Yeah, I mean, I joke all the time that I must have done something in my previous life to, you know, to be able to come into the situation, you know, this year at Alabama and this room of outside linebackers. Will Anderson's a great player. He was blessed with a ton of ability by, you know, mom, dad, and the big man upstairs, but he also has the mindset of a true champion and the mindset of a hard worker, relentless, you know, great work ethic and attitude towards every day and towards the meeting room and practice and walkthrough, every phase of the game and every part of his game. It's been great, obviously, working, you know, with him since coming here, and excited for the season. My wife and I, maiden name Kobe Shoji, we met at Stanford University. She was the director of ops for women's volleyball there. We say all the time we're half football, half volleyball. You know, she's been my rock and my support, you know, throughout this journey, and obviously couldn't do it with anybody else. Got 2 beautiful kids who love to, you know, be outside and love every sport, and they play everything and do everything, and we're a very active family, and you know, obviously I've loved the transition to Tuscaloosa.
Let's go! All moves we move, let's go.
Very excited to be a part of this program and obviously to be here on the right side of things for game day. I've been across the sideline, but you know, really excited to run out of the tunnel and you know, experience game day here at Alabama. Our fans are good as it gets. There is no better, and so look forward to Saturday.
Somebody stop me, I'm on a groove.
There you see the Crimson Tide ready to go.
Go.
Campbell down in Alabama. There's Jacobs.
Taken by Layla Smith.
Down and Alabama's back on top. Blocked by Jacobs. And blocked for
Alabama, they need a service drive.
Are you kidding me? Ray. And a point for Alabama on a long rally.
Move.
Alabama up 17-0. Big hit delivered right at the 20-yard line. Stepping up in the pocket. Now will run it. Gets across the 25-30. First down the sideline. Cuts it back. Hesitates. Jukes it thankfully to the relief of everyone wearing crimson. He just got down.
Skorka. Cross into the box and heads it in. And the game is tied. You hear the whistle. The shot. And it hits. Gianna Paul trying to run it down, and she gets past Wells. A shot with the right foot, goes far post, and it's now 3-1 Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. Those were our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
McKinley Crone had 7 saves in the Crimson Tide's upset win over 6th-ranked BYU. Crone allowed just 1 goal in each matches with Utah and Utah Valley. Crone totaled 13 saves in the 3-game road trip.
Riley Mattingly Parker scored the first goal in the Tide's win over BYU and assisted on Gianna Paul's game winner. Parker also added another goal in the 4-1 win over Utah Valley.
And in football, Bryce Young totaled 6 touchdowns in the Crimson Tide season opener, the most by an Alabama quarterback since 2019. Young also had a career high and team best 100 rushing yards on just 5 carries and also finished 18 of 28 passing for 195 yards with 5 passing touchdowns in the win. So congratulations to our Legacy of Hope Players of the Week. A big win for the Crimson Tide soccer team as now they're ranked 18th in the nation. And of course, a big performance by Bryce Young for #1 ranked Alabama football.
That's right, Roger. It was a big week for athletics, and it's going to continue to be a big week this upcoming week. And I'm already looking forward to it as we'll recap this weekend's matchup with number 22 ranked Texas.
We'll have that and much more right here next week on Tide TV This Week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Roll Tide!
This has been a presentation from Learfield,